Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd, ahbabti fillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hayyakum Allah. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts barakah in this sitting as well as all of our sittings. A point I wanted to highlight, ahbabti fillah, because there's so many questions related to mashayikh and what goes on between the scholars. What position do you have? What hizb are you with? What's your position on Sheikh so-and-so? What's your position on Sheikh so-and-so? Should I listen to Sheikh so-and-so? And one of the things we want to mention is, first and foremost, as we hear from a lot of the major scholars, is not to indulge in what takes between the scholars. Not to indulge in what takes place between the scholars. So when you have major scholars or scholars less than that involved in controversy, and these are scholars of Ahl Iman wa Sunnah, okay? They have the same methodology, but yet between them, maybe there's something. It is not necessary for you as a student of knowledge or from the general Muslims to involve yourself in the fitna, nor is it necessary for you to take a position. Because if you take a position in something, it should be based on ilm. It should be based on what? It should be based on knowledge. That what you have studied, that which you are aware of, that which will benefit you and benefit you in your deen. So as the Prophet ﷺ said, لِيَكُلْ خَيْرٌ لِيَصْمُتْ, or كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, say something good or keep silent. A lot of times it's better for us to just simply keep silent when there is fitna or fitna between the scholars, when the scholars are disagreeing on something, when one of the scholars who was known for the sunnah for years and years and years all of a sudden is being spoken about from another scholar, whether that scholar is an alim or other than that. It doesn't matter. It's still not necessary for you to hold fi mas'ala, for you to get involved in the issue and to indulge and immerse yourself in the mas'ala. Another point that we want to emphasize is that also when people do take positions, it's also not a necessity that you join their position, even if you respect that person. Because again, it should be based on knowledge. So sometimes you'll hear students of knowledge and those who have, that are mashayikh and stuff like this in the West, and you'll see them, engaging the people in the fitna and mentioning names of the mashayikh of sunnah and belittling them or giving their view of them, meaning in a very negative light, and sometimes dishonoring them or disrespecting them. Also, this is something which is also la yanbaghi. The student of knowledge should not do that. The da'i should not be doing that. They should not be belittling the ulama. And as we talked about earlier today in the sitting, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَرْفَعَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا عِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah raises those people from amongst you that are, that believe, that have iman, and those who are given knowledge. And he raises them darajat, levels. So the fact that Allah Ta'ala also says that verily the most the people who have the most fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ulama. That for those reasons we know that the scholars are they have an excellent status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we should not belittle them. We should not seek to undermine them. That doesn't mean we defend falsehood. It doesn't mean we have ta'assub and blind prejudice to them, even if they are the people of respect and khair. But my hopes here in this sitting is just to highlight the fact that we should not engage and entertain fitna between people who are known to be from the Sunnah. And for this reason, many of our scholars, or several of our scholars in contemporary times, have written treatises to try to make ilaj, to try to make a medicine for the kathrata, all the fitna and the breaking and the splitting you see between the scholars of Sunnah. And as I've mentioned and reflected many times over, for example, when I lived in Medina, the types of dorat, the types of sittings with the scholars that we used to have regularly, it was like nothing, would be many mashayikh that you will never see again together. Not because they're deceased, but because of their animosity. For example, the doras would be like this. This would be the lineup. It would be Sheikh Ibrahim Rehaili, Sheikh Suleiman Rehaili, Sheikh Ubaid Jabri, Sheikh Saleh Suhaimi, Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi, Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari, Sheikh Umar Harkan, I think his name, Sheikh Ali Tuwajiri, Sheikh Muhammad Al-Aqil, many Mashayikh, Sheikh Abdul Razak Al-Badr. Now you will hardly see any of them at the same sittings. Why? Because of the splitting, because of sometimes personal issues that has been exacerbated a lot of times by the students. And as one of the mashayikh I was just listening to yesterday mentioned, he said that what happens, he says that the scholars need to take responsibility to not allow students to come between them and not to make their differences and issues that are being raised to be carried from students, relying on students, because a lot of times you'll find it's ghayr sahih, it's not correct. So to give you insight, I was listening to Sheikh Salim Al-Hilali, one of the scholars in Jordan, hafidhullah ta'ala, from the muhaddithin, students of Imam Al-Albani, and a person of great tahqiq who's done so much excellent work. And the Sheikh was talking about this fitna. And he mentioned Sheikh Rabi specifically. He said, many of the things that people bring to me, they say, Sheikh Rabi said about you, Sheikh Rabi said this and that and the other. He said, when you call the Sheikh, you find that he didn't even say that. So that it sometimes it's actually between the students and between the individuals who involve themselves in fitna. Sometimes they're a source of fitna, and the Sheikh was actually going into it. He said some of these people are actually, he believes they are actually spies for like the Syrian government and other things in order to make fitna in the Dawah Salafiyya, because we see fitna that we never thought we would see. And to this extent, and this level of splitting between especially a lot of younger scholars, but some that are elders. And no doubt this plays into the hands of mushrikeen, of pagans and pagan governments like Bashar al-Assad. Devils like this, they benefit. And this is some of the things that they do. They will pay money. They will have spies to go to cause tashwish, because the dawah to Ahlul Sunnah is known that is the dawah safiyya. It is the dawah which is pure, based on the Quran and the Sunnah. So what better way to try to belittle, to try to distort, to try to destroy that dawah than to send people to infiltrate it and people to distort it. So the Sheikh was emphasizing that, and I thought that was a very important point, because they know more on a political level with regards to those Arab countries and those countries that they are a part of. So they know how some of those regimes work and some of the enemies of the dawah work. So it's very important to not let those distortions cause more fitna. Like sometimes you'll have trolls, they'll come and they'll pretend they're other people, and they will say bad things on the live streams. Okay, and they'll have a picture of a da'i or something, because they want to call. Those people are exactly like those spies, those devils from amongst mankind and jinn who cause fitna between the people. They cause fitna between the people, and they cause evil, and they want to spread wickedness. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith when he was talking about, because this type of wickedness, this is exactly what is mentioned as far as namima in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that this is one of the reasons people are punished in the graves. So why would you want to be a part of that? Namima, backbiting, slander, and spreading wicked tales. So for example, if you hear information about one of the scholars or about somebody or something, or a da'i, and you just spread it, and you spread it without affirming it if it's true, and secondly, with the intention of kind of just getting into the entertainment value of backbiting and the entertainment value of slandering people, and kind of let's see what reactions we can get. This is exactly namima. This is exactly what is a serious enough sin that will have a person punished in the grave. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, marra nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala qabarin. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was walking by two graves. فقال إنهما ليعذبان وما يعذبان في كبير. He said, verily they're being punished, and they're not being punished for something which is great, or which the people think is great. He said, أما الأول فكان لا يستتر من البول وأما الآخر فكان يمشي بالنميمة. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, as for the first one, he used to not cleanse himself properly when he was going to the restroom, akramakumullah. And as for the second one, is he used to nimshi bin namima. He used to spread tales around the community. And as Sheikh Ali Bassam and others mentioned, that this namima is when you are spreading tales in order to spread wickedness around the community. You could be spreading news. Oh, I heard Sheikh Rabi said, I heard Sheikh Suleiman Rehaili said, I heard Sheikh Ibrahim said this, I heard this, and because you're trying to get a reaction, you're trying to spread it around the community. That this is the kind of evil that is mentioned in that hadith, which has a shadid wa'id. It has a very severe punishment. Think about all the people who do this regularly. They actually establish websites and forums to backbite, to attack, to slander the ulama, to spread wickedness, to force people to take their position in evil, How do you think you're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if that is your ghaya, that is your goal? Your goal is to destroy Ahlul Sunnah and scholars of Ahlul Sunnah and du'a to Ahlul Sunnah. This is a wicked evil. This is shaitaniyah. This is something from the devil. This is from the devil. It's from the shaitan. So ask yourself where you stand when it comes to this various types of fitna. And I was listening also, which affirms what we're saying, recently, Sheikh Saleh Al-Usaymi, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, and he was talking about this very fact. I think the video is called, what's your position in the fitna or something like this. Okay, it's in Arabic. But anyhow, and he mentions exactly how the Salaf were and how important it is not to jump into the fitna, that it's better to keep silent. It's better to keep quiet, and that you are not forced to have a position, to get involved in the fitna. So that was a very fantastic maqta, little video clip from Sheikh Saleh Al-Usaymi from one of his durus. He's just talking about the importance of sukut, the importance of being silent, and silent when the fitna comes. And this is what I advise my brothers and sisters: when the fitna comes to you, just say, I don't know, and then keep studying. Make sure you're using your time wisely. You're studying, though. For example, as some of the students, the brothers asked about getting accepted into Islamic university and stuff, people are going to test you all the time. What's your position? Did you hear that Sheikh Abdul Muhsin wrote this book? Did you hear that so-and-so said this about it? Did you hear that Sheikh so-and-so before he died said this? Sheikh so-and-so is this. You're going to hear that, and that fitna is going to be ongoing. It's on fire, and it doesn't cease. It goes from generation to generation, the fitna. So how are you going to be during that fitna? How are you going to maintain? Because this is what we see from a lot of our ulama. They maintain because they don't jump into the fitna. Even if the fitna, people are talking around them and about them. Allah raises them. Why? Because they keep teaching and they keep benefiting, either benefiting themselves or benefiting others. They keep worshiping Allah, they keep doing talab al-ilm, they keep their head down, and they don't always have to speak and have a mawqif, even if others label them. And that takes a level, especially from the youth, a level of shaja', a level of bravery. Because, when you in your youthful stage, you're always afraid of how the people are going to perceive you. Oh, they're not going to say I'm Salafi. They're going to call me a Hizbi. They're going to call me a Khwani. They're going to call me Qutubi. They're going to call me this because I'm with these guys. They're going to call me from the Ulum guys, the Hajawira, I think they call it. They're going to call me from the Madkhalis. They're going to call me, and that I'm a part, I'm with Sheikh Rabi'. They're going to call me this. They're going to call me a Rehaili. Maybe they have a Rehaili group now. I don't know as far as the names. My point is, people are always going to label you. And once you can get comfortable with that and not care even the slightest about that, then you will be able to benefit more from your time and focus on the things that bring you closer to Allah. Think about this. Let's give you a scenario. Let's say if you were, you're living in the UK, you're 19 years old, you're new to the Dawah to Sunnah, Dawah to Ahl Sunnah, Dawah to Salafiyah, you're new, and you're living in Brixton, or you're living in Birmingham, and you see the splits between people who are basically, they have the same scholars, more or less, and they have the same aqidah. Their creed is the same. They believe the same about Al-Asma'i wa Sifat and Tawheed. They believe the same about the Umur al-Ghaybiyah, the Qadr, the Iman. They have the same aqidah. But you see that they're fighting and they're arguing, and then if you go to that conference or if you go to that masjid, these other guys are going to talk about you, and your friends already test you because they saw you give salams to one other kid who's coming from that masjid, who's also a lover of the sunnah, who's always carrying a book because he's a talib al-ilm. Now your friends have caused you some fitna, okay? Then you're diagnosed with cancer. This is a scenario, okay? I hope this happens to none of us. You're diagnosed with cancer. How much now are you thinking about those guys calling you a Hizbi, or saying that they saw you sit with Abu Osama, or they saw you listening and you had a tape and it was Sheikh so-and-so? How much are you going to care? No, you're going to be trying to make peace in your life. In this, your life is shortening. You're going to be seeking medicine. You're going to be looking at the higher things in your life. Am I still on Iman? How can I keep my Iman strong during this test of health? How can I, make peace with my family and others? You're going to be looking at the awlawiyat, those priorities in your deen and how to die on Islam and Tawheed. You're not going to care what these three guys who don't study, who haven't studied, who probably won't study, have said because they saw you listen to a tape of Abu Osama. They saw that you don't agree with the masjid in whatever, some of their politics, but you like some of their lectures because they're calling you the book and the sunnah. You're not going to care about that. Instead, you're going to be focusing on how you're going to meet your Lord. And so this is a priority on how we need to take our daily, to live our days, worshiping Allah, avoiding the falsehood and the fitna and the kalam and nas, the statements of the people. Do not indulge yourself. I can tell you real stories. I've met how many brothers in Yemen, especially in Yemen, that they refused, they couldn't go to Damaj for some reason. Maybe it was hard in the road at that time, or the politics, or they didn't have the money and they had to be in the city. They had children that were sick, whatever. And they would not go to other places where they could at least learn the Arabic language because people told them they were Hizbis. And these might not even be deen places. These might be places just where you learn the Arabic language. for example, an institute of Arabic language. Okay, yeah, their books might have some politics. It might have some things for conversational Arabic. But are you telling me you're going to go all the way to Yemen from America or from Canada? The UK is much easier. And you're not going to study just because the people said that those guys are Hizbis, so you're going to stay more or less ignorant, and you spent thousands of dollars to come to this country, and you're not going to study because they said that those guys are Ikhwani, the mudir, the head of that, the supervisor of the institute is a Ikhwani? Does that make sense? Is this the advice you think the scholars would tell you, especially imams like Imam Fawzan and others? Do you think they would tell you this? I don't think they would. I'm sure they wouldn't. And so it's so important to focus on the priorities. Again, what's going to bring you closer to Allah? Focus on ilm. I don't know any of the scholars who say, no, don't study, don't focus on the good. Instead, you need to get a position on so-and-so. You need to focus on this. None of them say that. No, they're teaching books. They're teaching books. They're raising the people. They're benefiting the people. They're showing and want the people to keep silent and upon good and sunnah. So these are just some pieces of advice and some things we need to emphasize with regards to seeking knowledge and not wasting time. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll see if there's any quick questions. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can I use some of your video snippets and upload you on YouTube? For one, I want to know who you are to make sure things are not out of context, because what I've had problems with in the past, some people have done that and they've done a good job at very nice videos, taking things that I've already said and putting in videos. But the problem is sometimes the context. So they say Khalid Green is refuting this person, Khalid Green, and I didn't even mention that person, but that's because of their inferences. So if it is, the video remains within the context of what it is, not just simply clickbait outside of the context and about, and used as a weapon, then I would have no problem with that. But again, there has to be a way to kind of communicate that so that is the case, so it's not being weaponized. How many videos we see it in Arabic as well. People say Sheikh Fawzan refuted Sheikh Rabi'. Sheikh so-and-so did this. And when you listen to it, it sometimes has very little to do with that topic, or it's way around that topic, but they're trying to use it as a weapon. And that's what the Hizbis do. So you have to be very careful of those kind of things. This term Madkhali is not a sect, and Sheikh Fawzan warned against using the term. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Barakallah feek. Madkhali is a tribe. It's a tribe in Saudi Arabia, and that's why you have mashayikh that are known to us, like Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Mohammed bin Hadi, Sheikh Zayd al-Madkhali, Allama Zayd al-Madkhali, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatin wasi'ah, and others. It's a tribe. It's a tribe in Saudi Arabia. So I think if you were to listen to what we said today and what we've said in the past, you would have an idea of how that is being used in the title. It is not used as a means of calling to a sect or attacking the sheikh or attacking any of those mashayikh that have that tribal name. So if you're honest with yourself and you listen, then you'll come to that conclusion. If you are other than that, then you will follow the way of the Hizbis and the other people who distort and cut and paste and claim and lie, the liars. So I hope you're not like that. Bi'idhnillah. May Allah forgive us and you and bless us and you. Ameen. How to get over what others think. Plain and simple, you have to. That's a level of maturity. You can't live your life that way. If I lived my life that way, I would not have done talib al-ilm, because people would have said, no, you can't. No, you didn't benefit. You didn't benefit in Damaj. You didn't benefit here. No, I was about me and raising my level of knowledge and my understanding of Islam. I would not have my PhD. I would not have any of that because I would have listened to others. So you have to. It's not even about just how. You have to overcome what other people think. Some people want you to be destroyed. There are takfiris and mubtadi'ah that want to see you dead. Some of them want to see you dead in your grave. How many disbelievers and mubtadi'ah hate you to that extent? They want to see you destroyed totally. So what if I went by what they want, and think how they know? I have to be Khalid Green. I have to go forward. I have to rely on my Lord, and I have to be the best version of myself I can, inshallah. And so that means not blocking out what other people who are negative and who might be evil and want evil for you think. You have to cross and X that out. And I've mentioned the story many times of when I was last living in Jeddah, and I had some brothers they're my brothers, my Muslim brothers, they're Salafi, but they had some their issues of who they associate with, and I wasn't clear enough for them. They didn't like that, me and Shadeed Muhammad were friends at that time, and they didn't like that I listened to Sheikh Ibrahim Rehaili. And so for them, they started, making noise, and I could blast one of them because he didn't even know Arabic and he's getting involved in the controversy. And they tried to make a big deal, but I just laid it out. I said, listen, Akhi, you don't even have to give me salams. I just cut to the chase because sometimes I'm like that. Sometimes I don't even want to, you want to say, oh, Akhi, I'll just say, hey, listen, don't give me salams anymore. That's probably the better thing for you. That's better for you. If I'm, I don't even, I have time for that. So sometimes you cut it because I didn't care, because while those brothers were talking and sitting in their gatherings and doing whatever in Jeddah, I was at Markaz li Ta'lim Kitab al-Sunnah. I was benefiting from my time. I was going and learning and feeling the deliciousness of ilm. Like, my day, I loved it. After work, take my nap, because in Saudi you had a lot of time back in the day. And then after Asr, I'd get my books and I'd walk across town. It'd be blazing hot, but I loved it, man. And I was going to the Dars, boom, Kitab al-Tawheed. Oh, Umdat al-Fiqh after that. Oh, Umdat al-Ahkam. Oh, we're doing, it was lovely. Oh, Usul al-Fiqh. Oh, Qawaid Fiqhiyya. I never studied Qawaid Fiqhiyya in a classroom like that. I loved it. So I was benefiting from my time. And that's the point. You need to, how do you overcome what they think? Is benefit from your time. Use your time wisely on good. If you go, for example, those youth that get a chance to study in an Islamic university, while some of the people will be in private gatherings speaking about you and speaking about this and wasting time, you can actually be elevating your understanding in the Arabic language, in issues of fiqh, in masail, calling one of the mashayikh, going to one of the mashayik's house. This is how you can benefit, instead of being caught up in wasting time with nothing, gaining sin perhaps. So that's how you overcome what people think, because if you relied on the people, you would never have anything, and you would never be anything, because the people would have already defined you. وَعِيَاذٍ بِاللَّهِ وَإِيَّاكُمْ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. How do you respond to the saying such and such scholar is weak in minhaj when they don't have a clear refutation of that scholar? Now that's beautiful. It's actually, it amazes me that people are so, these kind of doubts that people spread. And what I would ask, because most of it is mabniyatun al-batil, most of it is built upon falsehood. It's like a new usul built on falsehood. Total batil. So the way you can deal with that is you say, well, oh, I didn't know Imam Abdul Muhsin al-Abad is not strong in minhaj, that we need to return our affairs to Sheikh Ubaid. Sheikh Ubaid is an alim. We love Sheikh Ubaid, but that is false. That is batil. It is absolutely batil. And if you actually study with those mashayikh, you'll see sometimes the light of where the light of knowledge and the levels of knowledge and the levels of understanding and how they deal with masail. You'll see the difference between the scholars, between ulama. They're not all on the same level. And so when you hear that, you can you can either say, oh, okay, and keep it pushing, or you can say, hey, is it possible to get proof on that? How do we know what you're saying? Because what you're saying is really what is only spread amongst the awam generally, that they heard from a few students, even if those students studied there in Medina. Because I know brothers, and I know some of those brothers that say that stuff. But I would totally disagree, and I was in the same lecture as him. I was in the same durus. I sat next to him, and we studied those same books with those same mashayikh. That's his opinion. Why? Because that sheikh gives him what he wants. It should be based on knowledge and balance and truth, not falsehood. So that's why I say, hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. Bring your proof if you are truthful. How can you say that Sheikh Salih Suhaimi is not grounded in Minhaj, or Sheikh Ibrahim, or Sheikh, whatever? Because people make every claim, and they want you to return the affairs to only one scholar, or two scholars, or three scholars. Why? Because those are the ones translated for you, not because of their ilm fiqh wa fadl. Does Fawzan say what these people say? Does Fawzan, Imam, and these major scholars, the Kibar ulama, do they say the same thing that these people say, that, oh, Sheikh Abdul Masin al-Abad, he's not grounded in Minhaj or something crazy? Because people say this. This is our old shubahat, by the way. So that's what I say to the person who says this to you, is say, well, is it possible to give some dalil for what you're saying? You're saying he's not grounded in Minhaj. I mean, obviously you must know Arabic. You're studying these books with both these mashayikh. Why do you say he's not grounded in Minhaj? Can you give us some proof for that? Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. Just simply say that. Please bring some truth. Seeing a lot of questions. I'm going to have to go a bit. As far as just once you finish salat, there's no 5-minute gap or 2-minute gap. There's nothing that's measured that I know of any hudud there. Just when you finish salat, you're in the masjid or whatever, make your adhkar. Simple. Make your adhkar. Don't make it overly complicated. Who from the English-speaking du'at do you refer to, recommend for us to take knowledge from? I've talked about this many times, and you people who listen already know. So I don't know, my advice in general, listen to those people who call you to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ala madhhab salaf. This is it. And if they are people of fitna, and people who have some takfiri inclinations, or some people who have some other Qutubi, sort of a Ikhwan Muslimin ideology or something else laced in their dawah, then I say leave them. Be away from them. But those people from Ahl Sunnah, I've mentioned them countless times. So I think you know, and even better yet, you can even ask some of the scholars about that too. If we think of things related to kufr and we don't have hatred in our heart, I mean, how do you measure that though? How do you measure that? Witchcraft. You're not happy about witchcraft. I don't believe you're even happy about it. So those are weird questions. You can't take a measurement stick and something to weigh that. You're not, if you are pleased with disbelief and evil, then that shows weakness in Iman. So it just depends to the level. Tafawut, it's going to depend on how much, so you may, obviously people do sins because they enjoy it. So for example, the one who likes to dance, or they like to go to clubs, or they like to commit those kind of, whatever sins, they enjoy that. They like that. They don't do it. They're not committing zina or whatever because they hate it. They like it. They find some enjoyment in that. So obviously there is some enjoyment that they are pleased with that. So that shows weakness in their iman, doesn't nullify their iman. So it's going to depend, tafawut, it has different levels. Which ulama do you refer to yourself? and refer others to. I've spoken about this 1,000 times. You'll see a million videos, and I just named a whole bunch here. Imam Abdul Masan al-Abad. First, I would say, as Sheikh Suleiman al-Rehaili mentioned to me when I asked him some golden advice about returning to Yemen, he mentioned Imam Al-Albani, Imam bin Baz, Imam bin Uthaymeen, Imam Muqbil bin Hadi al-Wadi'i, Allah yarhamuhum, you know? So he mentioned that, and there's so many living, and there's so many deceased. Now, especially when it comes to a lot of major masail and those rasikhun. Should we lower our gaze at the clouds like in sports? I don't know anything about that. Good advice. But Ibrahim al-Rehaili is warned against by the ulama kibar, and I'm not aware of it. He did any retraction for his mistakes in usul. I didn't know he had mistakes in usul. They got a lot of money though. So is Halabi, Akhi, may Allah bless you. Look into the Radud and the evidences, it'll be clear to you. Okay. Sheikh Abdul Muhsin is from the Kibar ulama, one of the greatest scholars of our time. Whoever made that claim that he's weak in Manhaj is Jahil Ahmak. Yeah, some of the same people that probably taught you that vocabulary, they're the ones who say that all the time. I know many people, unfortunately, some of them are big du'at now, you know, in some of those places. This is exactly what they say. And sometimes they'll say it quietly, but they, you know, it's just unfortunate. It's just the way the nature of the fitna. I mean. Is remaining silent from taqwa similar to when the Prophet ﷺ covered his ears when told about a sin? Of course, this is a part of it. This is similar. So, of course, that's from taqwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that has to do with obedience to Allah and refraining from sin, that this is from taqwa. This is the asl of taqwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, naam, you know, it's better to refrain from fitna and sin and listening to sin and listening to fitna, wallahu musta'an, and keeping silent, you know. Should I turn off Fajr? After Fajr, should I turn off the lights when a parent tells me as I'm scared I'm helping them with skip Fajr? You can't command them to pray. You can invite them to pray, and if they tell you to turn off the light, tell them to turn off the light. You're not helping them in fitna. You've done your wajib. You told them. You woke them up, whatever the case may be. Okay? If you've done your wajib, what can you do? Sheikh Suleiman al-Rehaili said Sheikh Abdul Muhsin is not referred to when it comes to matters of jarh with that deal because some of the Hizbis hide behind old tizkiyat that he gave to them. Okay, interesting. And now they are marjuh. But that doesn't take away from his status. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and again, this is it opens up a lot of doors, those kind of comments and questions, but what I would say is of course scholars will have people who they trust or people who they they might have a tazkiyah for someone, okay, and that tazkiyah can be removed, and that tazkiyah is their tazkiyah. It doesn't mean another alim holds the same view. So regardless of those kind of things, what you said about even Sheikh Suleiman saying about Sheikh Imam Abdul Muhsin, you'll find the same things about a lot of the other scholars too. Even the ones who are considered really strong supposedly in that bab, like Sheikh Rabi' is considered, a lot of people refer to him in that. Does that mean he is that? And the same thing, the people try to belittle him, the people especially who detract from him, will say, hey, Imam Al-Albani said he was the Ra'ayat Jarh wa Ta'dil, or whatever the statement was, the flag bearer of Jarh wa Ta'dil in this time. That was then. This is what people will say. So the point is, the more knowledge you get, the less you're going to care about that stuff, really. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. What matters is al-ibra bil-ilm. It's practicing your knowledge. It's learning and practicing your knowledge. And it isn't taken away from those ulama. We know all those scholars I just mentioned are great imams, great mashayikh Ahl Sunnah. So you benefited from it, and that's it. And what you're saying is very interesting. He is the Imam of Jarh wa Ta'dil. Again, that's your opinion, really, honestly. Because the funny thing is that same question has been asked to Imam Fawzan and Imam Abdul Muhsin al-Abad. Well, other than that, and what did they say? There is no Imam of Jarh wa Ta'dil now. Why? Because Jarh wa Ta'dil is a science that ended with the ruwat. It has to do with the narrators of hadith. Talking about Ahl Bid'ah, talking about and praising people. This is a Jews, or this is, you could say maybe Jarh wa Ta'dil is more general than that, but in fact, it's a specific science. We don't say, oh yeah, I'm studying to be an imam of Jarh wa Ta'dil. I'm studying to be a student of knowledge of Jarh wa Ta'dil. No, you're studying those books that are already finished. It's a done deal. This has to do with the narrators. It doesn't mean we don't refute Ahl Bid'ah and stuff like this. Yeah, it's good what you're saying. Jarh wa Ta'dil exists. Kathir. That's not what some of the Kibar ulama and the ones who I feel the most comfortable with, like Imam Abdul Muhsin, Imam Fawzan, as you said. So I'm not going to get into a debate with you. It really doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter, because we know it would be a mistake on your part to say that science of Jarh wa Ta'dil, which is related to the narrators, is the exact same, and all of those qawaid are exactly the same, that we have thiqat now, like that, like the ruwat, like Imam Bukhari, you know, and looking at the narratives for hadith, that you can apply that for the people now, because you'll find, I don't want to say any negative, but if you've sat in the scholars gatherings, you'd know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you have or not, but even you would see, may Allah forgive us and them, they're human, and the shortcomings they do. So then now do I say, well, I sat and Sheikh Ubaid said this, and Sheikh Rabi said this, and Sheikh so-and-so said this, and I'm going to put it on the internet and belittle those mashayikh? No, but I'm a human, and I know that no one is infallible, and we should not make ta'assub, and we should just stick with the knowledge and with that which is mufid. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.